Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Kripa Sundar and I wanted to share with you something I did for the first time today, which is a Pecha Kucha presentation. A Pecha Kucha is a unique and interesting communication format which has 20 slides with images, each for 20 seconds. And I had presented this at the DLAC conference today, and though I couldn't record it real time, I did want to share out what I had the pleasure to present and get your feedback on it. So let's get started. Thank you for being here. I'm Dr. Kripa Sundar, and I'm here today as part of the teaching and learning research community to share insights from season 2 of our podcast that I hosted on how we can share education research with educators beyond the ivory tower. There are essentially 4 key pieces to making our research accessible. First one is to break it down to chunks, giving educators actionable to-dos, making it very relevant and timely for what is going on in their classroom at that time, at that moment. The first I'd like to share are podcasts. Podcasts are essentially the new age radio, which can take the form of interviews, could be conversations, could be more than 2 people, could be stories, and are available primarily online in different forms and settings. A podcast is most beneficial or most powerful and impactful when you are leveraging the power of voice, when you have a case study to share with quotes from different stakeholders, when you have an educator on your team and you're sharing their voice in your findings, or your own voice if you're super passionate. Blog posts is another version of communication to educators, which are very versatile and very common and popular. We can include links, whether they're videos, images, extensions, allows for more comments and liking and sharing. And the piece, though, about blog posts that I really, really enjoy is that it allows us as researchers to go into the details, to go into the specifics of our numbers, of our quotes, of our key takeaways, and still allow us to help educators expand their knowledge by linking out to other resources. Speaking of other resources, webinars are, I think, one that we have used quite a lot in 2020 and 2021, which are essentially these kind of asynchronous, typically sometimes synchronous presentations of one person speaking to many. This is going to be super helpful when we have something that's more broadly applicable. Let's say you're presenting on the foundations of the science of learning, like I often do, or we're sharing a case study on how it's applicable to other people. But whenever the goal is for one to share to many, a webinar is a great format. If you were looking for more personable conversations, then Twitter chats are a brilliant way to go. There's a universe of educators on Twitter who are very happy to use it, and Twitter chats are essentially just tweets, only structured with questions and answers. They can be anywhere from 3 questions to 6 questions, but they're super quick in terms of can last anywhere from half an hour to an hour, but you sometimes also have them last an entire week where it's more asynchronous. This kind of social media is really interesting and can really boost the documentation and visibility of what you're doing. Another way to leverage social media are Insta Reels, which are these quick 30 seconds to a minute long videos that we can share out our research findings, kind of like the TikTok, but maybe sassier, I want to say, or maybe for the older folks of us. But it's also super useful to collect and share out our primitive findings, right? If you are conducting a program evaluation, to share out our initial findings, get that stakeholder feedback, and inform your own research. Or if you're conducting something mixed method, there's an opportunity for us to collaborate more meaningfully. We also have workshops, anywhere again from half an hour, which is not really very powerful, to about 2 hours, which I think is a comfortable length, but there are also half day or full day workshops, which can take different formats based on what our educators need. Speaking of what they need, a workshop is going to be most impactful and relevant and actionable to educators when we come together as researchers and educators to really brainstorm on a specific problem and help together co-create the solution on how can our research inform that solution to that problem of practice. Newsletters are painful to put together as an administrator, as the creator, but can be super useful as a way of communicating research to educators because it's typically in smaller bursts, goes straight into their inboxes, is something that they can view at their own time. But the key to remember is if you don't want to be marked as spam, then we want to keep our newsletters very brief and still deliver aha moment. It's not about pushing our service or product as much as it is for the educator to read our content and have that moment of, oh, right. And that brings us to another place, which is essentially websites. All of these resources that I've mentioned, all of these different media formats need a home. And that home is essentially a website. There are some wonderful scientists out there sharing out some really interesting, well, scientists and practitioners sharing out information in very useful formats. The key to making these websites gain traffic, but also be a potent form of sharing communication is the resource idea. Giving educators toolkits, whether they're actual activities, templates, downloadables, any of those sorts. As you know, we also have more traditional ways of sharing out communication, like books. This How Do I Learn is a book I wrote for kids 7 years and younger and their caregivers with an adult section behind. But previously, publishing used to take anywhere from a year to 3 years. With self-publishing options becoming more available, that's a great option too. Thank you so much for listening to me today. I'm Dr. Kripa Sundar from EdTech Recharge, and I'm here on behalf of the teaching and learning research community. So please be sure to visit our website, subscribe for the podcast series, explore our blog posts, and just engage. Well, that was my Pecha Kucha. As you saw, it's super hard for me to stick within the 20 seconds, but not too bad overall, I think. But what do you think? Please do share your thoughts with me.